Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Chimera's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, on today's episode, I'm going to be taking you through a trip through time. Yeah, that's right. We're going to go all the way back to 1993 with the start of Magic and work our way up with every single year up until now and talk about the best card for Commander from every single year. And yeah, there are quite a few heavy hitters in this list. Now, this list is not based on my opinion for the best card from every single year, and maybe I should do one of those episodes where I talk about my personal opinion. This is going to be the cards from EDH Rec, the most used cards of every single year for the past 30 years. And when it comes to, the actual cards, I'm talking about them in their original form, not reprinted versions of them, because, a certain card that you'll see here not too long would come up probably in every single year because it's been reprinted a bunch. Anyways, now with all that said, let's jump into it. So, back in 1993 with the dawn of Magic, yeah, that's right, Sol Ring came out all the way back then. As you can actually see, the actual artist, Mark Tedden, in the bottom right of the actual image of the card, the actual artwork of the card, Tedden 93. Actually says the actual year on it right there. So yeah, of course, Sol Ring is the most popular card in Commander history. It's been reprinted, I'm sure, more than any other Commander card because, well, it's been printed in every single Commander precon, right? Essentially. So yeah, this card sees an absurd amount of play, would be incredibly expensive if it wasn't reprinted to the amount that it is. And yeah, even with all those reprints, it's still not within my budget of less than $1, though sometimes it does creep in. But yeah, great card. 1 mana, tap for 2. Basically a broken amount of efficiency. This card is incredibly powerful, and there's a reason why it is number 1. But moving up to 1994, we've got yet another mana rock that sees an absurd amount of play. I believe this one's from the Dark, Felwar Stone, and Artifact 4/2 that can tap for 1 mana of any color that your opponent's lands could produce. So most of the time, with a format like Commander where you've got 3 opponents, this can just basically tap for all 5 colors. So it's kind of like another artifact that we might be talking about here in a little bit. But yeah, another incredibly hyper-efficient, hyper-effective mana rock that can help you fix your mana early and often. And yeah, this one, for those of you who don't know, came out all the way back in 1994. Next up, though, we've got 1995, and the most used card, the most popular card from 1995 in Commander is Brainstorm. Yeah, that's right, Brainstorm came out all the way back then. Instant for a single blue mana. Draw 3, take 2 cards from your hand, put them on top of your library in any order. A good draw spell, a great cantrip essentially, and one that has a lot of applications for certain decks where maybe you want to set the top of your deck and utilize, certain effects with it. Certain commanders care about the top of their library. Or, if you don't care about those 2 cards you just put on top, maybe crack an Evolving Wilds or something new, shuffle them away. So yeah, Brainstorm, for those of you that don't know, came out all the way back then. I think this was, Ice Age? Something around then? Anyways, yeah, 95 Brainstorm, very popular card. Next up, though, the OG land ramp spell. I mean, how ramp actually got its name, essentially. Back in 1996, we've got Rampant Growth. That's right. That's when this one came from. I believe that's Mirage. Correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, sorcery for 1 and a green. Go get a basic land from your library, put into play, tapped. And apparently shuffle your library afterwards is how they used to say it. Regardless, a fantastic land ramp spell, one that sees an absurd amount of play. Again, it is basically the standard when it comes to land ramp. And basically a lot of other spells can, do somewhat similar things to this one. This is the OG. There's other ones that do bigger effects, but that kind of rate of, 2 mana per a land from your library into play with land ramp is about what you are going to get. And yeah, this one, again, from 1996 all the way back then, that's when this ramp train started. But now we are moving on to 1997, and we've got Mindstone. That's right, Mindstone came out all the way back in 1997, this fantastic mana rock. This one, I believe, is from Weatherlight, and yeah, this one is an artifact that costs 2. It can tap for a colorless. The amount of text that they have on this, instead of just saying, tap color symbol, because that symbol didn't come out for quite some time, they've got tap, add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool, play this ability as a mana source. That's a lot of text that could have been replaced by just a single symbol, and now it has been. But also, pay 1, tap, sacrifice Mind Stone, draw a card. So yeah, again, a mana rock that can replace itself when you need to. It can ramp you early. It can be very efficient. Again, 2 for 1 essentially. And again, yeah, if you need to replace it later on in the game, get something else, sacrifice it, go get another card. So yeah, Mind Stone all the way back from 97. Moving on, next up we've got Windfall, which came out in Urza's Saga originally. This is a card that has been budget-friendly every now and then, not too often though, and yeah, it's only seen a couple of reprints. I mean, a decent amount, but still not enough to make it budget-friendly, at least for me. Regardless, a fantastic card, especially in a format like Commander. A sorcery for 2 and a blue. Every single player discards their cards and then draws cards equal to a greatest number a player discarded this way, which of course in a game like Commander, you know, hey, you've got 3 opponents, one of them might have the most, one might have 7. Great, let's get everyone up to 7. A great wheel effect, one that can be very effective in, you know, certain decks out there. Yeah, just a great card all around, and yeah, one that sees a ton of play these days. Certain commanders really like wheels, and certain players, well, like to utilize other effects that maybe only let players draw, you know, 1 card a turn if it's not you. So yeah, there's some brutal combos with this as well. Regardless, this one came out all the way back in 1998 and has been wrecking friendships every now and then, ever since then. Next up, a card that I had no idea came out all the way back in 99 and not earlier than that. 3 Visits. Yeah, did you know Portal 3 Kingdoms was in 1999? I thought this was like in 94, 95. No idea. Regardless, a notoriously underprinted set. One that doesn't have, you know, much supply at all, and therefore 3 Visits was a very expensive card for a long time. Sorcery for 1 and a green, kind of like a rampant growth essentially, but instead of getting any basic land, you'll get specifically a forest card, so that can be, you know, a non-basic forest. There are some great ones at that, and get it right into play. Not tapped, right into play. Shuffle your library afterwards. So yeah, basically, hey, go ramp. Again, very effective, very efficient. 2 mana, 1 land into play. Again, untapped so you can use the land right away. And of course, again, does not have to be a basic forest. So there are some great ones that you can tutor for. Regardless, 3 Visits would probably not be on this list had it not been for a couple of reprints. Commander Legends and I believe Battle for Baldur's Gate as well had it reprinted there too. Still a decently expensive card. The lowest printing, you know, at $7.30 currently. Regardless, a card that was incredibly expensive for a long time for a reason. A great card, but now it's starting to see more and more play with its lower price tag. But now let's move on to the year 2000. And yeah, Rhystic Study actually came out in the year 2000. Rhystic Study is, well, a notoriously good card in a format like Commander. Again, this card not really seeing all that much play in other formats, but because Commander is itself a multiplayer format, you can get an absurd amount of card advantage with a card like this. An enchantment for 2 and a blue. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you draw a card unless they pay 1, and this is notorious for the phrase, "You gonna pay 1? Are you gonna pay 1? Are you gonna pay 1?" Yeah, this can be a very annoying card. It can be one that can generate you an absurd amount of card advantage throughout the game, and it's one that I believe came out in Prophecy. I think that's what that symbol is. So yeah, a card that definitely, I mean, since it hasn't been reprinted for quite a while, got really, really expensive, and then, yeah, recently getting reprinted a couple times, but it's still like a $40 card in and of itself, so yeah, definitely an impactful card in the Commander format. Next up, a card that actually just saw a reprint in our most recent set at this point with Phyrexian LB1, Phyrexian Arena. That's right, the Phyrexians are back, but they were way back then in 2001. Just getting things started with Apocalypse. I believe that's what that symbol is. A very straightforward enchantment. Hey, 1 black, beginning of your upkeep, draw a card, lose 1 life. So yeah, basically, again, 1 life for 1 card, especially in a format like Commander, you start with 40 life. No big deal at all. Draw deeper into your attack, double up your draw on every single one of your turns, and essentially, yeah, pay some life for some cards. What's not to love about that? So yeah, definitely a very popular card in Commander. Again, like Rhystic Study, another enchantment that can provide you a good amount of value throughout the game. Moving up 1 year, though, to 2002, and this is where I actually got into Magic, and I remember Mirai's Wake. Yeah, definitely had a deck built around it. An incredible card, enchantment for 3 green, white. Back in, I believe that's Judgment. Creatures you control get ++1, so an Anthem effect, which is nice, but even more importantly, whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land produced. Yeah, this was definitely in a deck that I built that was, yeah, hey, just make a ton of mana, you know, make a ton of angels. Yeah, those angels get +1/+1. Sure, they're like 5/5s now. great, and then swing out. So yeah, that's basically just, hey, ramp, control the board, and just make an absurd amount of angels and take out your opponents. What's not to love? Yeah, doubling up your mana is incredibly impactful, and Mirari's Wake is kind of the OG way of doing that. So yeah, definitely a popular card in Commander for a reason. Not to be outdone, though, we have our first equipment that is showing up on this list as well, and Lightning Greaves is an incredibly popular card, an equipment that costs 2. This is a card, I believe, is that Darksteel? Then, yeah, equipped creature has haste and can't be the target of spells or abilities. So, basically, Shroud now is the keyword for that. Did not have that back then. And equip 0. This is a 0 equip cost to actually, give basically any of your creatures haste and also protect them from spells. Now, you can't target them as well. I don't believe Hexproof was actually a thing back then either. But still, hey, you can't target them. That's fine. Your opponents can't, though, so it's a great way to protect your commander or, another, impactful creature, and also a way to utilize them right away. Being able to swing out with a creature right away is great, or being able to, activate an ability as well. So, yeah, a great card in Commander, and one that has commanded prices, so that it has really never been budget-friendly for me. So, here's hoping it's reprinted more and more. Moving on, we've got 2004 with Kodama's Reach, and actually, I was very surprised by this one. I might be on an island here, but I did not realize that Kodama's Reach was actually the original effect of this, and we'll get to maybe the other version of this here in a bit, potentially, not to spoil it. But yeah, Kodama's Reach, a sorcery Arcane. In Arcane, yeah, that can come into play in certain scenarios, but not really, most of the time. For 2 and a green, search life for 2 basic lands, reveal them, 1 goes into play tab, the other goes in your hand, shuffle your library. Yeah, back in the original Kamigawa, that's when this one came out. Yeah, essentially ramp and also set up your next land drop as well. A great way, especially for, 5-color decks to essentially say, hey, yeah, I need to make sure that I can really ensure that I'm getting the right lands that I need to ensure that I can fix my mana properly. So yeah, a great card, and again, one that definitely surprised me. Moving on, 2005 is when we got Farseek, a sorcery for 1 and a green. Yeah, like a rampant growth, right? Not quite, because this one says search life for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain card put in play tapped, then shuffle your library. So again, kind of more like that 3 visits where it's like, hey, very specifically, we're gonna go get a certain type of land. In this case, either plains, island, swamp, or mountain. So basically the exact opposite of 3 visits. Now this does come into play tapped, the land does, but again, gives you more flexibility on what you can go get. And of course, it does not specify basic land, so because of that, you can go get a variety of incredibly impactful lands that, again, happen to have one of those land types. So yeah, 2005 was a big year for Ramp with Farseek coming out. And so was 2006, another big year for Ramp, because this is when the Signets came out, and apparently one of the most popular ones has to be Rakdos Signet. Yeah, Rakdos absolutely loves their Signet, apparently. Artifact for 2, pay 1, tap, add black-red to your mana pool. Of course, all the other Signets, kind of follow this exact same pattern. Whatever their guild's colors are, that is what they are tapping for. So this one kind of filters 1 mana into 2. Again, a great, very effective, very efficient mana rock. You can get down early, can help you fix mana, can help you filter your mana. It is a great card, and so are the other Signets. But yeah, Rakdos apparently stands on top. So Rakdos fans out there, rejoice, because this is the #1 card out of 2006. But moving on to 2007, we've got not a ramp spell, we've got Ponder. That's right, some card advantage, card selection. Cantripping effect. Sorcery for a blue. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library. Draw a card. So a very effective cantrip. Very, cost-efficient card. Just a single mana. Hey, top 3 cards of your library. Do you like them? Cool. If you do, let's put them in the order that we want. Let's get the exact card off the top 3 that we want with that card drawn. Or if we don't like them, let's shuffle it away. Let's get rid of it. And again, setting the top of your library can work very well with certain commanders out there. Also, of course, other commanders absolutely love low to the ground cantrips. Casting spell after spell after spell, getting some Magecraft triggers and such. Yeah, Ponder, a good card, and one that obviously dominated in 2007's numbers. Next up, though, a card that I actually thought was older than it is, and yeah, apparently Negate, that didn't come out until 2008. Apparently, I don't know. I don't know why I did not know that, or for whatever reason, I thought it was older than that. But no, Negate, one of the most popular counter spells in Commander, it didn't come out until 2008. Now, this one's seen a ton of reprints. It's a very budget-friendly card, which I am very thankful for. Came out all the way back in Morningtide. Again, that surprised me, but yeah, instant for 1 and a blue. Counter target non-creature spell. So a very very effective, very efficient spell. And yeah, the vast majority of the time, what you want to counter in Commander, at least what many players aim to counter, are going to be those non-creature spells. So yeah, I mean, counterspell, obviously, better when it comes to actually, this is the same amount of mana. This one, less, actually mana fixing involved and actually having to cast it. But, again, more restrictive on what you can counter. But again, countering non-creature spells can be a very impactful thing. So yeah, I'm very thankful this one came out back in 2008 and that it's seen a lot of reprints. And speaking of efficient, though, back in 2009, that is when we got Path to Exile. Yeah, one of the most effective, most efficient removal spells of all time. Hey, do you not like that creature? Cool, let's pay a single white mana at instant speed and exile it. Gone. Goodbye, creature. Now, there is a, somewhat downside to this. Hey, its controller can search the library basically and put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Gonna be worth it the vast majority of the time to get rid of an opponent's creature for 1 mana, exiling it completely and saying, yeah, sure, I mean, you had your, your Eldrazi in play or whatever it was. Hey, for 1 mana, it's gone, and you get a basic land. You're welcome. Yeah, it came out all the way back in Conflux and has been just absolutely decimating players ever since. But now we are moving on to 2010, and again, this is where I was very surprised with Kodama's Reach, which came out, what did I say, back in, 2004? So yeah, 6 years before this one. Cultivate, though, is the much more known version of this card. Yeah, search your life for 2 basic lands. 1 goes in your hand, 1 goes to the battlefield, tapped. Shuffle your library, 3 mana. Exact same thing, except this one is not an arcane spell, which again, the vast majority of times does not matter at all. But yeah, again, hey, 3 mana, get 2 basics. Cool. What's not to love about a card like this? And again, it surprised me because, yeah, this card came out in 2010. And yeah, I thought for some reason this one was older than Cultivate. I thought this was the OG, and I was wrong. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you were fooled by this one as well. Moving on, though, a somewhat similar card to one that we had already talked about with Lightning Greaves. In 2011, we got another version of that with Swiftfoot Boots with an updated template and equipment for 2. That does, unfortunately, have an equip cost of 1. I mean, probably fair, but it has an equip cost of 1, unlike its Lightning Greaves brother. Anyways, equip creature has Hexproof and Haste. So, yeah, again, Haste is the, common denominator between the two. There's also a form of protection on it, though this one is better because, again, obviously Shroud, you can't target your own creature, which is not good in certain circumstances. This one says, I have Hexproof, and means that your opponents cannot target them with spells or abilities, so it is one-sided. Obviously, when it comes to the equip cost, though, being 1, that is much worse than it being 0, but still not all that expensive. Again, many Commander players out there are very thankful that this came out in 2011. A great card to protect your Commander, a great card to make creatures hasty, just a great card in general. Next up, a card that many players probably aren't happy came out. Yeah, 2012, Cyclonic Rift. Yep, this thing has just been decimating boards ever since. Instant for 1 and a blue. Bounce target non-land permanent you don't control back to its owner's hand, but that's not the problem. The problem is overload for 6 and a blue. Basically, change, just a little bit on the text of the card. Hey, you're gonna just change the text by replacing all instances of target to each. So basically, you're gonna return each non-land permanent you don't control back to its owner's hand. A one-sided instant speed board wipe for 7 mana that is, again, flexible if you need to just bounce 1 thing. A very, very good card in a format like Commander. Again, good in one-on-one, even better in a 3 opponent format, essentially. 4-player format like Commander. Cyclonic Rift wrecking tables all the way since 2012. Moving on, 2013 comes around, and we get Elvish Mystic. That's right, yet another mana dork, low to the ground mana dork, like a Llanowar Elves, or Finehorn Elf. There's a lot of examples of basically this exact same creature. A 1/1 Elf Druid that costs a green mana, tap for a green. Yep, very effective, very efficient. Elf decks are very popular out there. Also, yeah, if you've got a good amount of mana dorks in your deck, if your deck works with mana dorks, maybe you got ways to untap them, maybe you got things that care about, other creatures in play, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, incredibly effective source of ramp for your deck that can help in other ways as well. So yeah, Elvish Mystic. Didn't realize it came out in 2013, but apparently it did. Next up, 2014 comes around, and Wizards is starting to focus on Commander, and this is where we get Commander Sphere, which again, I believe like Sol Ring, and correct me below in the comments if I'm wrong on this. I've seen a reprint, I think every year with Commander, essentially. An artifact that costs 3, taps to add to your mana pool 1 mana of any color that's in your Commander's color identity. So again, And this is, actually referencing your commander and saying, hey, let's just, fix mana perfectly just for you, essentially. Sacrifice it, though, draw a card. So kind of like a Mind Stone in that way, where it can replace itself. But obviously, yeah, you don't have to pay any mana for that. So yeah, Commander Sphere came out way back in 2014, back when Wizards was like, oh, hey, here's this format, Commander, cool. Anyways. And then 2015 comes around along with Commander 2015, and Wizards is making yet another mana rock. This one, though, even more efficient. 2 mana, it can tap for a colorless. Oh, and yeah, also, hey, you've got no maximum hand size, which is an incredibly important thing for many decks out there, and just generally a good thing to have, essentially, in play. So again, an efficient mana rock that's printed just in a Commander product. Yeah, this one spiked in price quite quickly, as of recently, finally getting a couple of reprints, still outside of my budget territory, but hopefully it's got some more reprints in the future to knock it down even further. Next up, we've got 2016, and we've got a removal spell that is incredibly impactful in Commander and other formats as well. An instant for 1 white-black English Unmaking. Hey, exile target non-land permanent, you lose 3 life. So get rid of basically anything. I mean, yeah, you can't touch lands, that's fine. Most of the time, you don't really care about taking out a land. But yeah, get rid of basically anything permanently, again, exiling it, losing 3 life because, again, of the efficiency, because this is at instant speed. 3 life is not really all that big of a deal, again, in a format where you've got 40 life, so English Unmaking can make a massive impact without really that big of a downside. There's a reason this one's very popular. A great removal spell came out back in 2016 with this one. But then 2017 comes around, and with it, we've got Heroic Intervention. On the other end of things, hey, you might try to remove my things, but you know what? Let's not do that. An instant for 1 and a green. Permanent you control gain Hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Now, I remember when this card came out, and it actually was budget-friendly. Somehow, some way, this one was budget-friendly. Basically, save all of your permanents from almost anything for just 2 mana at instant speed. Yeah, that's an incredible effect, and one that I really hoped would have stayed budget-friendly for longer. It, of course, did not. I think it's seen some reprints since, but still its price is decently expensive. So, Wizards reprinted some more. Yeah, this fantastic card from back in 2017 needs some more love, and obviously it does see a lot of love in Commander, being the most popular card from that year. Moving on, 2018 comes around, and with it, Beast Whisperer. That's right, things are going back to Ravnica again, and with it, we get this Beast Whisperer, a 2/3 Elf Druid for 2 green. Whenever you're casting a creature spell, draw a card. Yeah, certain decks out there absolutely love creatures and love casting them and love drawing cards because of that. This is very low to the ground compared to other effects that do somewhat similar things. A very efficient creature that also has a relevant creature type in many circumstances with Elf. Sometimes Druid, sure. But yeah, mostly Elf. So yeah, an Elf deck, an Elf Ball deck, guess what? They're going to be casting an absurd amount of creature spells. But yeah, even outside of Elf Tribal, there's a lot of other creature-based strategies that absolutely love this card. And this is a massive draw engine for them. So yeah, 2018 was a big year for decks that absolutely can really benefit from a card like Beast Whisperer. Moving on to 2019, though, we've got Arcane Signet, a card that was actually labeled, even by its designers, I believe, as a mistake, an artifact for 2 that can tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So again, low to the ground, incredibly efficient, incredibly effective mana rock that can perfectly fix your mana for you. So yeah, basically, hey, whatever color you need for your commander, great, I'll give you exactly that. And yeah, again, it has apparently been labeled as a mistake. Even with that, though, it has been reprinted a ton, it is budget-friendly, and it sees an absurd amount of play. And kind of like Sol Ring, I believe this one is probably just going to keep getting reprinted every single time in Commander Precons, probably for the rest of eternity. Next up, though, 2020 comes around, and we've got Feed the Swarm, a sorcery for 1 and a black that says destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls. You lose life, you'll have permanents converted mana cost. This is a card that many Commander players have been waiting for quite some time because, hey, if you're in a mono black deck, yeah, you've got basically no ways to actually deal with enchantments. I mean, a couple, sure, but yeah, it's really hard for you to deal with enchantments. Creatures, sure, you've got plenty of ways, but dealing with an enchantment, not so much. So this is a card that can be very effective at doing just that. Obviously, can take out creatures when you need to, but more likely you're putting this in your deck because you're like, oh yeah, I'd like some ways to actually deal with a pesky enchantment as well. So yeah, Feed the Swarm sees a ton of play because of that, because again, black has a really hard time dealing with enchantments. Actually, red does as well. So yeah, in Rakdos decks, they really like this too. Next up, 2021 comes around, and we've got a 1-drop from that year that is incredibly popular with Esper Sentinel, a 1/1 human soldier that costs a single white mana. It says, whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X for X as Esper Sentinel's power. This one has the loving nickname of Ristic Buddy, but it's kind of more like a Mystic Remora, actually. This is a card that can provide you a lot of card advantage throughout the game because, hey, it's a taxing effect. If your opponents don't pay that tax whenever they're casting their first non-creature spell, you're going to be drawing a lot of cards. And again, getting this down early, basically no downside to it. This can just get even better throughout the game if you give it some pump effects as well, making your opponents actually, not be able to ever pay its cost, essentially. It can just provide you a ton of card draw, and it's a great effect. So yeah, definitely a big print in 2021. But now we're moving on to 2022. That's right, last year we are catching up finally with an offer you can't refuse. An instant for a blue that says counter target non-creature spells. Controller creates 2 treasure tokens. Hey, yeah, again, remember how Negate is already incredibly efficient and effective at 2 mana? Let's just take off that generic mana cost here. Let's take off that 1. This costs a single mana, counter any target non-creature spell. Now, of course, there is a downside to it, giving that, controller 2 treasure tokens. With the vast majority of things you're going to be countering with this, though, that's going to be well worth it. Again, you can counter some massive things and be like, oh, yeah, here's the pittance, right? Here's some small treasure tokens. Yeah, a very efficient, very effective counter spell that obviously, yeah, makes your opponents a bit wary now whenever they see just a single blue mana open. And I will actually throw this one in here, even though this year is still ongoing, obviously. But yeah, at this point, currently, Elesh Norn Mother Machines is the most popular card of this year. A 4/7 Phyrexian Praetor that has Vigilance that costs 4 and a white, and has, if a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability, a permanent you can hold trigger, that ability triggers additional time. And on top of that, permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponents control to trigger. So basically, hey, Panharmonicon from the command zone. And then on top of that, basically a Torpor Orb that only affects your opponents as well for all their permanents. So, hey, you double up your ETBs, you shut down your opponent's ETBs. This one is popular as a commander. It's popular as a card in the 99. We shall see if it ends up holding the place throughout the year as a #1 card from the year. There's still a lot of time left in the year. But yeah, again, at this point, Elesh Norn is currently in the lead. And with that, today's episode is coming to a close. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on it in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.